Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is your host Thomas Tyree from On the Hot Podcast. Today, this is episode 139 for you guys today. Of course, this episode is going to be coming out on all four of our platforms: our Instagram account, our Facebook account, our YouTube account, and our Apple Podcast account. So let's go ahead and dive into episode 139. I'll be sharing my divisional round game summaries from this past weekend in the NFL playoffs and the divisional round. So starting off with the first game that we saw, we seen the number one seeded Baltimore Ravens defeat the fourth seeded Houston Texans. The Ravens won that game 34-10 to punch their ticket to the AFC Championship this year. So evaluating this game, I thought it was a good overall win for the Baltimore Ravens to pull out this victory against the Houston Texans. The Texans' pass rush did give the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson and company some problems in the first half of that divisional round matchup. They sacked Lamar Jackson 3 to 4 times in that first half. The Houston Texans pass rush did. And the game was tied 10-10 at halftime. And at that point, it was anybody's ball game. The way how the Texans pass rush was getting home, the way how Lamar Jackson was getting sacked in the pocket, really wasn't making plays really with his arm or legs in the first half. He was really dissected. And the way how the Ravens woke up in the second half, I understand they had the bye week. And they didn't play their starters the final week of the regular season because they had nothing to play for. I don't know if they were rusty or what happened. But, man, they woke up from their nap in the second half, and they never looked back. The Ravens pulled away big time in the second half of this ball game in the divisional round matchup. They played elite defense and pitched a second half shutout. I mean, they had C.J. Stroud and the whole entire Houston Texans offense not knowing what to do next. I thought it was a great game plan by the Baltimore Ravens in this ball game. And one of the most important things, Lamar Jackson silenced his critics. Lamar Jackson, prior to this game, was 1-3 in his playoff career thus far in his young NFL playoff career. We all know historically he's one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history in the regular season. The win-loss stat proves it. His winning percentage proves it. But Lamar Jackson silenced the critics and showed up that he can play in a ball game when it matters most in the postseason, because he accounted for a total of 4 touchdowns in that game. He had 2 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns to help the Baltimore Ravens win that game 34-10 against the Houston Texans. So I'm really, if the Ravens play the way they did in the second half against the Houston Texans, I'm not sure if any of the other 3 remaining teams left in the NFL playoffs can defeat that Baltimore Ravens team that I saw in the second half of that game. In Baltimore, the Ravens look really good in their performance. They move on to the AFC Championship. Then you look at the next game that took place in the NFC on the final Saturday game. You had the number 1 seeded San Francisco 49ers taking on the 7th seeded Green Bay Packers. The San Francisco 49ers defeated the Green Bay Packers 24-21 in that ball game. This was actually a really competitive game. It's always a good coaching matchup when you have 2 offensive guys, 2 offensive-minded head coaches, and Kyle Shanahan and Matt LaFleur that came from the same cloth. And every time we get this head coaching matchup between the 2 respective coaches, both great coaches in the National Football League, it's always a great matchup between the 49ers and the Green Bay Packers. No matter how the overall rosters are, it's just because of how these guys run their team and how disciplined they have their guys in big-time games, something that my head coach as a Dallas Cowboys fan, Mike McCarthy, should take notes from. But I digress. The 49ers, they didn't play perfect in this game, and they really could have lost this game to the Green Bay Packers the way how they played. If the Packers capitalized on their special teams mistakes, and if their kicker made that kick in the fourth quarter, this could have been a different outcome. And we could potentially be talking about a Lions and Packers NFC Championship game later on in the episode, instead of a 49ers-Lions NFC Championship game. But Brock Purdy, his throws were off target in this game. The defense did give up some big plays to Jordan Love and company. And special teams had some mistakes in this game against the Green Bay Packers. But when it mattered most, Brock Purdy stepped up when the game was on the line, when the opportunity presented itself. Brock Purdy was there, and he capitalized on the opportunity. He had a game-winning drive without Deebo Samuel being by his side. That was huge to me. That's growth that Brock Purdy can get things done without Deebo Samuel. If you guys remember in the beginning of the regular season this year, Brock Purdy struggled when he did not have Deebo Samuel in the lineup. Now, obviously, the 49ers offense is a different dynamic without Deebo Samuel in the lineup. But Brock Purdy still was good enough to have a game-winning drive against the Green Bay Packers, and he looked efficient doing it. And the 49ers looked good in that final drive, holding Jordan Love to a standstill, picking him off on the final drive to seal the deal to punch their ticket to the NFC Championship. Then you look at the first Sunday game in the NFC. We had the third-seeded Detroit Lions defeat the fourth-seeded Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Lions went on to win that game 31-23 to punch their ticket to the NFC Championship. But one thing I have to say about this Detroit Lions team, the Detroit Lions deserve this playoff run. They won their first playoff game since 1991, the longest drought in NFL in the modern day of NFL teams that failed to win a playoff game. It took them over 30 years to finally get another playoff win, and they did that in the wild card game against the Los Angeles Rams. Now they have two impressive postseason victories after defeating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the divisional round to punch their ticket to the NFC Championship for the first time since 1991. Jared Goff has played very well, and he's been a very clutch quarterback in the playoffs thus far in this NFL postseason run. Out of all the other quarterbacks still left in the playoffs, they, in their own rights, have stepped up and proved that they are worthy of being in a conference championship. But Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Brock Purdy all have defenses to lean on, elite defenses to lean on. What does Jared Goff really have to lean on the defensive side of the ball for the Detroit Lions? Really nothing. And Jared Goff has not leaned on his defense. He's played well and put the Lions in great position to potentially win a Super Bowl this year. He's been making elite throws in the pocket, playing clean, mistake-free football. You look at his stats in the first two games of the playoffs this year, he has 564 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 0 interceptions, playing mistake-free football. Jared Goff playing this way, the Lions have the potential to win the next 2 games and finish their season as Super Bowl champions. And both sides, I will say for this Lions victory that they had against the Bucs, they played good on both sides of the ball. It was a great team win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The secondary picked off Baker Mayfield twice. I know CJ and Baker were beefing all week long about CJ was talking trash and Baker was saying this man must not really watch film because he was saying a player that's not even on the roster anymore. But nonetheless, the Lions secondary did play well. And offensively, Ben Johnson called one hell of a game offensively for the Lions on the sidelines. I like the play calling selection that I've seen from the Detroit Lions in this game. Great team win for the Lions, and they punched their ticket to the NFC Championship. So that left us with the big-time game Sunday between the third-seeded Kansas City Chiefs and the second-seeded Buffalo Bills. And the Kansas City Chiefs defeated the Buffalo Bills 27-24. Patrick Mahomes, I've been telling you guys for the last year on this podcast that that man is already a top 5 quarterback all time. His playoff record at this stage of his career shows it. 12 playoff wins, only 2 playoff losses, and those are 2 playoff losses only coming to Thomas Edward Patrick Brady. The man just played his very first playoff road game, and he showed up when it mattered most. This is the best that the Kansas City Chiefs looked overall, as good overall as a whole entire team all year long. Because we all know that the Kansas City Chiefs defense has played elite all year long. The Chiefs offense, on the other hand, has played mediocre for majority of the season. They did not look good. And this is the reason why my pick the Bills over the Chiefs backfired, because you can never count out this Chiefs team. As long as they got Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid, they could do anything. And they are on their way to their 6th straight AFC championship, with all 3 of those guys being a part of the dynasty that has been built for the Kansas City Chiefs. And The team played well defensively. Offensively, they looked really well. They did a great. The Chiefs, did a great job offensively. Finally, getting a rhythm in the passing and running game going. They looked really dynamic. Overall, a great win, but there were some head-scratching things that I felt like the Bills, if they cleaned up their mistakes, could have punched their ticket to the AFC Championship. I mean, they made so many head-scratching mistakes when it mattered most. Where was their number one wide receiver, Stephon Diggs? Where was he? He didn't show up when it mattered most. Going for it on 4th and 3, running a fake punt with Damar Hamlin on your own 32-yard line in the fourth quarter when you're only down 3 points. A head-scratching decision by Sean McDermott. Then the Tyler Bass kick. I mean, Tyler Bass, you paid him $12 million during the NFL offseason? You pay a kicker to do that on a new, fresh 3-year contract, and he hooks the field goal to wide right. Misses a 44-yard field goal with a chance to send the game into overtime. And once a game's in overtime, it could go on both. You could go either way. It's a 50-50 ball game all over again. Man, tough pill to swallow for the Bills. But the main question is has the Bills' Super Bowl window officially closed? To answer that, the Bills' Super Bowl window has officially closed in my book. I believe that the window is closed. The relationship between their franchise quarterback Josh Allen and their star-studded wide receiver Stephon Diggs is crushed. I don't believe that this relationship can be mended. It shows that Josh Allen does not believe as in his number one guy in Stephon Diggs anymore. I mean, in big-time moments, when have we seen Stephon Diggs step up to the plate for the Buffalo Bills? Hell, even on that big win streak that they had to get into the playoffs and win the AFC East, Stephon Diggs really wasn't a factor. I mean, Stephon Diggs in this divisional game had 3 catches for 21 yards against a team that Stephon Diggs was drooling, chopping at the bit to beat that Kansas City Chiefs team for the last 3 years. Then looking at the rest of the team, Von Miller was supposed to be a difference maker when he came back from injury. He only had 2 solo tackles this season with 0 sacks. Then you're looking at the rest of the team, guys like Gabriel Davis, Micah Hyde, Leonard Floyd, Taylor Rapp, Jordan Phillips, Shaq Lawson are all NFL free agents this upcoming NFL free agency. And the Bills are negative $43 million in cap space this NFL offseason. When you have the AFC that's as loaded as it is, the Baltimore Ravens ain't going nowhere. The Kansas City Chiefs ain't going nowhere. The Cincinnati Bengals get Joe Burrow back next year. They ain't going anywhere. The Houston Texans are a new established team in the AFC. They got their rookie quarterback, C.J. Stroud, that's going to lead them to a lot of success in the future. The New York Jets, when they get Aaron Rodgers back next year, they're going to be a talented team. The Los Angeles Chargers just got Jim Harbaugh. This is a bad look for the Bills. I just feel like in a loaded conference, their Super Bowl window has officially closed after their defeat in the divisional round to the Kansas City Chiefs. But those are my divisional round game summaries of this weekend's NFL playoffs.